So, Mikey, I got a joke for you. It's a vintage joke. What is the definition of an alternative band?
I'm not good at these jokes. What?
3 angry women and a dweeb. Hey there, everybody. Mr. Robin here. How the hell are you? Welcome to Mr. Robin's Hood. We're coming to you digitally from the compound, just outside of Fargo, Oklahoma. I'm here with my trusty partner in crime, creative collaborator, and current best pal, Mikkel Robinson, known throughout the podcasting uni as Mikey on the mic. We also have Cousin Fred and his girlfriend Magdalene at the controls, along with Sammy the Screaming Goat. Say hi, Mikey.
Hey. Oh, Sammy. I'm happy to see you gave it a name.
Well, yeah, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. Well, going back to your joke, I had an afterthought about it.
Uh-huh.
3 angry women and a dweeb.
Yeah.
That sounds like a horrible time.
But if you think back, that joke, actually, I said it was a vintage joke.
Yeah.
It was, I think, the mid-'90s. And, you had people like...
Are you calling me vintage?
Well...
Vintage has to be 50 years old, brother. Did you not read the definition?
To the Google. No, you had people like Alanis Morissette,
yeah,
who was just so angry. All of her songs, at least in the first album,
right? Yeah,
Jagged Little Pill.
Jagged Little Pill.
But yeah, that kind of defined alternative music in the '90s because everybody was trying to figure out what the hell does that mean.
Right. Well, and the '90s is probably some of my favorite music.
Uh-huh.
And so I could see where that came from.
Yeah. What were you, 5 or 6?
Well, I was born in '89. I'll date myself.
Oh, yeah.
So, I kind of grew up in the '90s.
Yeah. I kind of look back at '90s music, particularly the grunge and alternative stuff. That was, in my humble opinion, the last great era.
I agree. Thank you. We can agree on something.
So today's episode is going to be Listen Locally. That's the title of it. And we're kind of promoting local bands, local venues, and the importance that those play, for people culturally in a kind of a rural, remote area such that we live in.
Yep.
And we have a special podcast interview that we're going to be doing just a little bit later. We'll be joined by Travis Jones of the Oklahoma band 9 Left Dead. And we're sure looking forward to talking with him. That's going to be a remote he's going to call in. And as I understand it, he's going to be traveling very soon in the next week or so. So we're really lucky to have him on board. So let's just talk a little bit about, what it means to have, local bands that people can get access to and go enjoy an evening listening to these bands. Because when you live out here in the sticks, you either have to travel to Wichita, maybe Enid,
Oklahoma City,
Center, or Oklahoma City, of course. Tulsa, if you're really hard up.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan.
You could even go to Amarillo. But you still have at least an hour and a half to a 3 to 4 hour drive.
Sure. And if you want to see, some of the big acts, or as we used to call them back in the 70s, mammoth rock and roll, then yeah, you've got to travel from here because they're not coming here. And so you have these local bands, local venues, and you're still able to kind of connect to the music that you definitely love. And
with that,
with that,
we will lead in to let's talk a little bit about, music in general.
Okay.
And then we'll kind of go back to the ones locally that we want to talk about in some of the venues. But for me, being able to connect with music and not have to drive forever, where I can just be like, hey, I'm getting off work, let's go eat dinner and watch this little acoustic set or whatever. That's something that I enjoy and is very fulfilling to me. And so and like I've said before, I'm not musically inclined. I don't play an instrument, but I very much understand it and I feel it, and it's very healing for me to go experience. It's one of my favorite things to do. I mean, I've probably seen, I don't know, I need to count it up, but probably 500 bands or more.
And I think one of the interesting pieces to the history of this region is that there were so many great musicians that came out of here.
Yeah.
Just to the south of us at Pack Saddle, in that area, there was a guy named Spade Cooley. And Spade, he was a big Western swing musician, and realized that Arnett, Oklahoma was too small for him. So he took himself and his band and they went out to California, and he had a television show out there, and it was just he and his band, and they'd get up and play, and people were really digging that. But Spade fell on hard times because he had a really bad temper, and he wound up killing his wife, who he accused of having an affair with Roy Rogers, of all people. And so they arrested Spade, threw him in prison, tried him, threw him in prison, and he only stayed there for like 6 years. Comes out of prison, and he never was able to regain
the traction
and go on and do other great things. But so there was Spade Cooley. Here locally we had guys like Herschel Clothier, who was kind of Western swing, kind of a big band sort of outfit, I think. And he had a huge like Greyhound bus that he would load up the band every Saturday night, and they would go off someplace and play and then come back. And there was Chuck Carrico.
Yep.
My own father, Ron Howeller, who played in a lot of bands over the years. And I think your husband even has...
His grandfather, which everybody knew him as Bud Robinson. He played the bass or guitar, maybe both. Yeah, we're not 100% sure because he did do both, and we do have a really cool old flyer from when they played at the darn it in May, the OK Corral in May. Which did your dad play there? You think with them ever? Or?
I'm sure at some point he did. He was in and out of those bands. My father, here's a quick story. My father started traveling with bands. Started traveling at, I think, I'm not even sure he was 16. He was probably 15. And Herschel Clothier my grandparents were just very conservative, wheat farmers. And Herschel Clothier somehow came to my grandmother and talked her into letting my father get on a tour bus with, just a bunch of seedy musicians and go out on the road for the entire summer. And Dad, he always kind of speaks of that. He was only in it he wanted to get enough money together to buy a car. The vehicles have always been a big thing in his life. And so, while these other guys were blowing through their money on booze and Dad mentioned there was a lot of dope on that bus and that sort of thing, Dad just kind of kept to himself and collected enough money that when he got through the summer, he was able to actually go out and buy a car. But it just astounds me that my grandparents let him
allowed that to happen.
Yeah.
You're like, how did you? Well, that's what we call sacrificing for art. Yeah. And maybe the gentleman just really was persuasive,
Well,
goes a long way too.
Yeah, Herschel was kind of he was a suave sort of guy. I'm sure he wooed my grandmother into saying yes.
This could be just a life-changing experience for little Ron.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and there's a million stories that I could go into about him and his musicianship. Interestingly, my dad cannot read music. He can't.
There's a lot of musicians that can't.
And those are the ones that drive me crazy. Because if I do it, I have to work at it.
Yeah.
And,
I understand. I mean, I can't even do it. I tried. And it's above me. My brain does not work that way. Yeah. And so I just, it's fine. I can appreciate it. And, speaking about families that are musically inclined, all my both my brothers can sing. My older brother plays the guitar. He was self-taught, although he can read music. My little brother played the saxophone. That's true. And he was really good at it, but he never kind of continued on with it. But they both have beautiful voices. My dad, his brother, his mom and dad all had beautiful voices, but a lot of them, my uncle, Paul, is amazing pianist. Mm-hmm. And other than that, my dad and his dad and his mother were just basically singers. But I didn't get the beautiful singing voice, we'll say. I didn't get that.
And there were, when I was growing up here, long before I was even a teenager, there were bands like the Debtors, can't remember exactly how they pronounce that. And they grew into a band called Crossbow. And it was guys like T.Z. Wright, there was Mike Williams, Tom Bryant, and Terry Ware. And they put out a couple of records. They were on a show down in Oklahoma City that came on every Saturday afternoon called The Scene with Ronnie Kay. So there was a lot of musical talent, where I'm going with that. So there's a lot of musical talent in this area that some of them went on to do great things. Yeah. Others kind of fizzled out. I had a band in high school that tried to get going. We were going to be glam punk.
Interesting.
And, called Captain Time and the Lost Army of Guitars. And we sucked. So that didn't
go very far.
It didn't go very far at all.
But at least you gave it a shot.
I did. I just wanted to be a guitar player because all the girls love the guitar players.
Yeah. There's something about a guitar player.
Yeah.
And a bass player and drum player and the singer. It's just something about musicians in general, really.
There you go.
Does something to us ladies.
There you go.
Sammy.
Sammy agrees.
Did not sound like it. He's yelling. You should see the look on Sammy's face. If only you could see.
So, and there are a few venues here in the Woodward area
Yes.
that have live music. One of them, of course, is the Patriot Pub, where you work sometimes, and that I am trying to coin the name, the Pat. Spread that around. The Patriot Pub henceforth is to be known as the Pat.
I almost feel like you're like going into like hypnosis with your voice there. Like we're hypnotizing you to call it that.
Yeah. Look into my eyes.
Yeah, and I mean, there's another bar not far, Twisted D's, that has some music, and most recent, the Dancing Spur. So speaking about Carrico, his son Chuck Carrico Jr. and his boy have been playing. They started out those two and then kind of morphed into a full band, and they just actually played this past Saturday, last night at the Dancing Spur, and that's a place where people can go and they have a nice dance floor, and you can two-step and do that kind of traditional dancing. The Woodward Arts Theater has some music that comes through every once in a while.
I actually made a pitch there once, trying to get ZZ Top to come into that.
Every girl's crazy about a sharp dressed man. That was actually playing as we were driving out here.
And I had known that back in Virginia, there was a smallish venue there that got the band to stop on their way. They were touring the nation, and they made a pitch saying, we're a small nonprofit.
Yeah.
It would be a huge boost for us if you guys, were to stop and just do one performance. And by golly, they did it. And I tried to get, I sought out their management, and I did my best to try to get them to play at the Woodward Theater. But that place, they would have burned the place down. I mean, it's a small, really pretty small venue. There may be 500 seats.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I mean, it is small, but it's an experience.
Yeah.
It's definitely an experience that
Did I
makes it unique.
Tell you the story about my wife molesting Billy Gibbons?
No, I don't think we've got to that one.
So we're on the very first front row. There's nobody, but they didn't even have security at this place. We're on the front row. The stage is just right there. We're in the middle. I can count the caps on Billy Gibbons' teeth. That's how close we are. So,
wow.
And they at the time, I don't remember the album. It may have been Chartreuse. They were kind of pushing that album. And there was a song on there called Fly. And it was about, using marijuana. And Mary Ann, my wife, also known as the wife.
The wife.
Blog, she had a pin that she had on this jacket she was wearing. That it was kind of a cool looking pin that just said Fly. And so she got it in her head she was going to hand that off to Billy Gibbons. And so she takes the pin off. And towards the end of the song, I don't remember. Billy wasn't. He was like doing a guitar thing. I don't really remember. And she stands up, and I'm like, "What the hell are you doing?" And she's like, "I'm gonna get him." And I'm like, "No." And she actually reaches across the front of the stage. And he's like completely lost in whatever he's doing on the guitar. And she taps his foot. And he got all spooked. I mean, he's like, and he jumps back a little bit, and she left the pin there, and they finished the song. And then he came back, and he picked up the pen, and he saw it. He got it, and he asked her. He said, "You sure you want to give this up?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Give me a pick."
Let's exchange. Yeah, you can keep that if you give me the pick.
So anyway, that was, and there's video of that on YouTube, by the way.
Oh, that's funny.
And and if it had been any other place, they would have thrown us out of there, and would have been banned for life.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. Well, and venues do kind of make the experience better or worse as well too. There is another one in town that it is a restaurant, but it's Scissor Tails, and they do a lot of music, and the owner, he's also a musician as well, Dakota Davis. Oh yeah, and we can't forget the fairgrounds.
Oh yeah,
yeah, because like we were talking about the Woodward Elks, they use that facility for the rodeo and bring some nice names in. And honestly, disclaimer: if we don't mention somebody or leave a venue out, we don't mean it.
Send her the hate emails.
Yeah, he's always trying to get me to deal with the hate emails. Like, you don't pay me enough.
Yeah. Okay.
But anyhow, so when we were deciding what we wanted to do with this episode, we knew we wanted to interview somebody, and we thought of Travis because, well, one, him and I had a great conversation when I met him at the Pat.
There you go.
And
catching on.
Yeah, and they're coming back in March, so we thought, well, this is going to drop in February. This would be a perfect time to kind of help promote that as well. So this will not be the last episode that we do with the artist. Where we were just talking about, talking to some other local artists and interviewing them and getting their 2 cents on how they feel about their music and where they're going with it. And, some people have aspirations like Travis to make it huge, and some do it just because it's what they enjoy to do.
Right.
And it's something that they just do on the side, and that's great. So with that, we want to go ahead and get going with the interview with Travis.
All right.
So we're going to give him a quick call and get him on the line.
Good. Here we go. So today we're speaking with Travis Jones of Nine Left Dead, a band based out of Amber, Oklahoma. And he's been good enough to come on and do a quick interview with us. Travis, how are you doing today?
Doing great. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, we're doing okay. It's a little cold and windy up here. But
definitely windy.
Yeah. But, that kind of comes with the turf, I suppose. I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit, first of all, about Nine Left Dead, the origins of the band.
Yeah, that's quite a bit of a long origin, but
okay, we've got time.
Well, absolutely. It's actually crazy about it. As I started playing music itself, I'd gotten leukemia as a child, and music was kind of something I got into to kind of vent and cope with life, honestly, at that time.
Uh-huh.
And so I started the band actually with the guy who's actually the current drummer now, Steven, when we were in high school, actually.
Uh-huh.
Which I don't know the date time frame on that, but it was quite a bit ago, longer than I'd like to admit, honestly. But
yeah, I think I'm probably in the same boat with you. So
yeah. So we just kind of started. Actually, our moms made us get together because we're actually cousins, and his mom called my mom, said, like, yeah, he's into music, they need to start a band, and it was like, here, call him. And I was like, man, he's like the weird cousin. I don't really want to do that. But
oh, everybody's got a weird cousin. Yeah.
Mine popped into my head instantly.
See?
Like, I know which one my weird cousin is. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's him and I have basically been best friends since then. We hit it off really well, and we write a lot of similar stuff, and
okay,
kind of going through life real dark together, actually, because I was still going through a lot of my cancer stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually is type 1 diabetic, so he's kind of understands the hardship of life. So we were kind of related and found that was our bonding experience, was we were both figuring out how to basically live every day without dying.
Yeah, yeah.
And using music as a form of coping through that, which I love that, because that's a huge thing in the whole arts thing. A lot of people can, I feel like, relate to that as far as, I can.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Because it was we didn't really, like, I'd played sports and there was nothing else really, I didn't really care about it anymore. So I quit doing that, and there was nothing else for us to really do as far as deal and handle with things in life. And that was like literally the best thing for us, just to be able to put ourselves out there and tell our stories. And quickly found out it was like very relatable to people. And, music to me, and I firmly believe this, is the most powerful tool in the world. Like I truly believe that.
Right.
Yeah, earlier, my husband sent me a video of Chris Cornell's daughter doing a cover of Hunger Strike, and it literally almost moved me to tears. Like, if it was a longer video, I would have been crying at the end of it. It like ended right in time. So
yeah,
it makes me think of that when you say that, because it is.
Well, and I think that's a really excellent point. Music touches us all way down deep inside, in a place that most of us probably don't recognize until it happens. But so yeah, that's a great point. So you said it was childhood leukemia.
Yep.
So you're past all that, and
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I spent the first year of my life, or the first year when I actually had cancer, it took them forever to figure out what it was. And so I'd lost use of most of my arm movement, and my legs were deteriorating, the muscle anymore, because they couldn't figure out what it was forever. And then I went to specialists, and they found out that exact moment. And after we started on the chemo and stuff, I went into remission pretty quick, but it's a long process. Like,
Sure.
After you even get done with all the chemo and stuff, and I was in the hospital 3 to 5 days a week, every other week. And so it was very tolling. And of course, being the age I was actually like 9 years old when I had leukemia, and I think 10 when I actually got diagnosed. And it was, kids that age, they don't know any different, and they were freaked out. So like it was basically like being alone most of the time, because you think, oh my goodness, it's contagious and all this other weird stuff as kids. So like nobody came around, and my cousin actually showed up, and he never got freaked out by it. And he actually is the one that gave me the guitar where I started playing music. That's actually how I got into it. Just got tired of playing Nintendo at the hospital, so I started learning how to play the guitar.
There you go.
That's great.
I had a cousin who had leukemia as a child at 6, went into remission at 8, and she became this amazing dancer. I mean, she started out when the leukemia hit, but she's been in remission as well. And I remember visiting them and kind of having a similar experience, as far as it was hard, like seeing her sick. It was hard, and it was hard for me to understand, because I was only like, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years older than her. So I can relate to you in that regard, because I kind of lived, like, not having it, but experienced a close relative that did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that was probably the darkest and hardest part for me, because I made a lot of friends who obviously were in the hospital and stuff. You meet a lot of kids around your age and
Sure.
are experiencing that. So you get this bonding thing. And so like I watched a lot of those friends as kids, like die, because it was just, medicine wasn't anywhere near as advanced as that time. Like, we had cures and stuff for it, but I don't think the treatments were as like, effective at that time frame. So it was crazy. Is an experience. It's kind of like, not that I would ever like purposely want to go through it in life, but it's also kind of shaped me a lot and turned me into like having a lot of weirdness in my beliefs and the way I live my life, because I definitely understand the concept that like life is short, and you're not guaranteed tomorrow. So that's definitely been a pushing factor in my life and a shaping factor in my life.
And would you say that those experiences as a child have some influence on your songwriting?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like 100% they do. Because it's, again, it's like you don't realize until you've gone through something that life-changing how it makes things so difficult to even do. Like it's weird even now, and like my age now, like it's still hard for me to like justify using my time going to work, even though, you know, like you got to have the money to pay bills. It's there are better things you could do at that time in your life.
Right.
But
trust me, you're preaching to the choir here.
Yeah. And like it's kind of like it changes the perspective on how you write and address things and see things, and really just your view on the world, you know?
Sure. I'm kind of interested. I've been looking through articles about the band, and I've noticed you've had some personnel changes along the way. I was just wondering if you'd like to kind of run down the current lineup.
Absolutely. Yeah. So when I started the band with my cousin, him and I took it quite a bit like into like a next level of stuff. We ended up getting a record deal through a subsidiary of Warner, and it just went completely awry, and him and I ended up parting ways. And it really sucked because it was like one of the hardest things that I had to do, and I think the success part of it kind of pushed him away a little bit. And you know, we were still younger, so kind of, you know, it was an intimidation thing for him a lot. And so we ended up messing up our friendship and parting ways. And so then got together with this guy that's kind of still a part of the band. He just doesn't get to play all the shows, Brad Scott. And him and I had a buddy, Zach Clements, and Zach had actually gotten cancer, and he was our drummer. And in the process of doing things, we were playing quite a bit, and then Zach got the cancer, and we had to kind of take a break, and Zach ended up dying, which was really, really rough.
Sure.
Yeah.
And before he passed, he told Brad, he's like, dude, you guys need to make sure you keep the music going. It's what you guys love. Stop like playing games and like really get at it. So me and Brad started writing real heavy. We had another guy drumming, and he just wasn't putting in the effort. And we brought Steven back in because him and I had rekindled our friendship, and he was in another band at the time, and they stopped doing stuff. And so Steven just came back in to do guitars and stuff. And that drummer ended up bailing on us, and so we moved Steven back to the drums because he can play every instrument. It's insane. And he's like, I'll do whatever I need to do for the band. So that's how he kind of came
Dave
back in.
Grohl, is he?
Dude, he is, and that's his biggest influence. Is what's crazy. It's funny, but he plays every instrument, just dabbles in it all. And so he got moved back to the drums, and then right before he had came back in, we had been looking for a bass player, and this guy that's playing bass for us, Tyler, was in a different band with Steven, and Steven's like, yeah, man, I recommend him. Like, definitely, I think he's weird, but like, you know, you should get along with him. I was like, okay, so it'll be like having a second you in the band then, because Steven's super weird. So that's kind of how we got hooked up with both of them again. And then, like I said, we got Brad still. He just kind of in and out because he's just got a lot of life stuff going on. But we definitely have an open door policy with him. He's family to us.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
Yeah, and I feel like, and I don't know, because I'm not a musician by any means, but I'm very much connected to music on another level. And I notice, and I have a lot of friends that are musicians, that there is a musical kind of bond that you have with people, that it's like you get together with a certain group of people and the music just goes to another level. You know, you get what I'm saying? So almost that makes me... That almost makes me think that that's kind of what this Brad guy brings to the table. There's just an extra connection where it's like, we get where you're at, but you bring so much and we jive so well that it's worth the little bit of...
The way him and I sing together is insane, because I think he actually has a better voice than I do. But whenever we sing together, there's no like egos involved in it. And it's like sometimes he's singing lead and I'm singing his harmonies and back and forth, but it's just... Sometimes I even catch myself just listening to it and getting lost in it, because I just feel like we were made for each other to sing. And like him and I are best friends, and like we write a lot, and a lot of stuff that I've had personal issues that I went through last year. It's probably one of the hardest years of my life, actually. And he was going through a bunch of personal stuff, and it's just him and I are connected on another level. And actually that's how me and Steven got bonded when we were out in Nashville at the first of last year. We were recording all the songs we got out right now, which are the 5-song EP, Love After Death. And Steven and I spent a lot of time going through a lot of the darkness that I was going through, and that's a lot of those songs. Brad and then came out there to do vocals, and we sat out there and wrote a bunch of stuff that's actually on this new EP that we got coming out. So it's a connection on a whole other level, and it's just like that's the guy I go to, that him and I just we talk about everything. I talk about stuff with him that I don't talk with anybody else about, and him and I can sit here and write, and that's how there's a bond there that's unbreakable with him and I. We'll be best friends till the day we die, even if he doesn't get to come back and play. But that's my big goal is we get on the level where I have to throw enough money at him where he has to actually quit his job and go out with us.
There you go. That's a great thing to aspire to.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, Travis, as I was reading through articles, kind of doing some background for this, it's interesting to see how the media has labeled you guys over a period of time. You'll see everything from rock band to hard rock band to alternative band, and I even saw someone labeled you guys a metal band. And I'm sure that you really hate to be pigeonholed, but where do you guys see yourselves?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably why those are all different, because it's like every time we get asked, it's like it feels like a really difficult question to answer, because we don't really put any kind of limits on the way we write or what the song comes out. We try to let the song kind of do what it is. I don't feel like by any means we've ever been like as hard as like most metal bands. We've had a couple songs that are aggressive, and the thing about my vocal range is like I do some yelling, but I also do a lot of singing, and but I also have the capability of taking an acoustic in the middle of a show and basically being like a singer-songwriter style song. So I think we kind of cover a lot of areas, but for the most part, I feel like we're just like a hometown kind of modern sounding rock band. We just happen to have a bunch of storytelling in our songs, which I think is where a lot of music slipped away from. Like the stuff we write about is relatable that people go through in life, and that was our biggest goal, was to put our personal stories out there, just so people could actually have something to relate to know they're not alone, you know?
Sure. How many shows are you guys doing a year?
Well, we were last year, towards the end of it, we were playing every weekend. We were just getting, because we were still, we're still working regular jobs right now.
Yeah.
So we would get off work and get in the vehicle and leave and try to catch a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and get back in time to go to work Monday. And so we were playing basically every weekend. And then like, I'm actually looking at a calendar right now where we just filled out for this year. And we're starting back up in February, where we're going every other weekend from then until March. And then once April, May, June, July hits, it looks like we're playing about every weekend. And then right now we don't have dates filled in for August and September, or August on, just because we're kind of looking at probably getting on a few runs with some bigger bands that we're having some opportunities for, as we're actually getting ready to release a new 6-song EP soon.
Oh, good, great. And I'm going to ask a question, because years ago I used to write for a newspaper here locally, and every music act that came through town, I would ask this question, and it was an interesting trend that I was seeing, and that was that a lot of acts are now kind of they're doing their own management. And that really struck me as kind of interesting. So, do you have a management company, or do you guys do it yourself?
So we do as much as we physically possibly can in-house, because it cuts out on paying people is a big part of it.
Right.
And we just kind of have that concept, that we don't feel like anybody's going to work as hard for us as what we are. So we do everything we can ourselves. So we have a manager, and it's kind of like an equal partner, because we all do a lot of different things in the band. But that's what that guy's good at, is the booking and like a lot of the aspects. Like, and then we have like a social media manager, and I kind of oversee everything. And then we actually have a consultant that we pay that's about the only thing that's like outside of the band. And it's similar to what a manager is, but he kind of more just directs us. So we kind of have one, but a lot of it's for kind of helping us get through, kind of get set up with the right people and have some connections that we don't have access to, is a lot of what we use that for. Similar to what you would have a label back in the day, where they have more connections and everything and ins and outs. Now I think it's kind of trended to where you can do a lot of that stuff yourself, and labels aren't as necessary. But it's kind of one of those deals, if you get the right deal and the right funding, they're not like something you would just completely turn away. But it's kind of one of those deals, we got kind of hosed by our first label. And so we're real skeptical about jumping into one unless everything's right on paper with it.
Yeah, right. Okay, I appreciate that answer.
Yeah.
Now, influences.
Yeah, as far as musical influences.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry. I should have been a little more specific there, I guess.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm kind of big like into movies, so like a lot of movies influence me too in actual writing.
Interesting.
No,
that's great.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, like actually one of the songs we have out right now that they made me do it is the whole idea of that song was influenced by the movie Donnie Darko.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I have a painting where you can see a little figure that kind of looks like Donnie Darko in it. After I painted it, I was killer. Like, oh, there's a little Donnie Darko in there.
That's awesome. Musically, though, I'd say it's kind of what's cool about the band is we have a lot of different influences individually that we kind of respectively like each.
Yeah.
But bring to the table, and I think that's what helps us kind of write to where it gives us, like, by no means do we reinvent the wheel, but we do have like a slight sound that's different than anybody else's. Like that's definitely ours that we've honed into. And it's funny because like our biggest influence from a drummer is the Foo Fighters for sure, because he's actually even crazier. His biggest drumming influence was Josh Freese, who's now drumming for them.
Yeah.
And so he's been big into them and like Nine Inch Nails. And then my biggest band influence is definitely probably like Rise Against, and then Smashing Pumpkins, a little bit older stuff. I love Rise Against. I've seen them live like 3 times.
Sure. Okay.
So like, and I'm into a lot of different kinds of music. It's kind of embarrassing, some of the songs I listen to, honestly.
Yeah. No, I go down that road myself a lot. But I saw in one article, and I was kind of baiting you there, I think. I saw in one article that, I don't know if it was you or a member of the band, somebody mentioned the Beatles.
Yeah, I'm huge into the Beatles. I love the Beatles.
Oh, great.
I actually grew up listening to so my dad is very like into music, and so is my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously my brother is too. He's like 18 months older than I am. And so I grew up listening to an insane amount of music, and one of the biggest artist that my mom listened to all the time that I loved was Meatloaf. And then my dad was huge into the Beatles and like, CCR, like those older style bands. And so I'd love music, period, but that's the stuff that I grew up listening to. So they're like huge influences on just how, like, what kind of turned me on to music and what I was trying to achieve when I first started playing the guitar and just writing music.
I can totally relate to that because both my parents are like that too. And I'm like thinking, as you're talking about what your mom and dad listen to, like my mom's favorite bands is the Styx.
That's awesome.
And like my dad is Jethro Tull. And like Ian Anderson, like I fell in love with him, and I tried to play the flute when I found out I wasn't really musically inclined. But it was inspired by that too. So I can totally relate to you on that, Travis.
That's cool. But see, you're a great writer, though. You do write some good stuff. I read some of your stuff when we were at the venue.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool.
Absolutely.
I had one girl one time tell me, she's like, can I turn this into a song? And then I realized that, songwriting is very poetic. So,
100%.
There's a lot to kind of crisscross there as far as the writing goes.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually, when I kind of it's weird, like the writing process for me is extremely different almost every time. Sometimes it's just like, I think the key for it 90% of the time is just when I write to people, I talk differently when I'm writing than when I do when I actually talk, because I can feel like words are like a playground for me. So I'll send some message and some actual words, and I'm like, that would be a good song, and then I'll put that into a note, and the next thing you know, I feel like I'm just writing basically a poem, and then I kind of can hear some melodies in the process, and then I'll go typically sit down at the piano, and that's 90% of the time how I work songs out. It all starts from just one line, it turns into a poem, then I convert over the piano into a song.
Oh, cool. Great.
Yeah, that's awesome. When I was in radio, we went to this, it was called Oklahoma Association of Broadcasters, and they would have entertainment, and they would bring in people that were songwriters, famous songwriters, and they would come in there and be like, we wrote these songs, and they'd play it. And I remember this one specific one who had written was it Amarillo by Morning or something? And I'm thinking like these artists don't all write their own songs. You know, it like blew my mind because I'm just like right out of college. Like I knew not everybody did, but it like sunk in whenever I saw it happening in front of my eyes. The person who actually wrote it singing it, and I was like, okay, it's almost just as good or maybe better than.
Yep.
You know,
that was a big wake up for me too, because I didn't realize it either. And then I started diving into it, and I think his name's Jeffrey Steele, who wrote like some of Rascal Flatts' biggest hits. And then you go and you listen to him and what he wrote the song about and watch him perform it, and it's actually better because knowing what it's about and stuff like that. Like he actually had wrote about his kid that he had lost, and like it's just you can see the emotion more. And so I agree with you. Like it was mind blowing, but I think a lot of times when it comes from the heart, like, and you watch that person perform it, it's actually end up being a better version of a lot of stuff that they end up taking and people buy and record themselves, you know?
Yeah.
So how much of your playlist is cover and how much is music that you guys have written?
So it's funny. I can actually answer that because we were just messing with that last night, working up our list for this year. So we have about 10 covers that we've got like on hand right now, and then about 30 originals.
Oh, cool. Great.
So when we typically play, we do like 2 or 3 covers, depends on how long of a set we're playing.
Yeah. And
if we're playing with other bands. And if we make it through like an hour set, I think we've been doing maybe 2 at most, but sometimes 3, just depending kind of how it feels and the mood and how the crowd's reacting to certain songs and how we feel that night. But most of the time we don't do a lot of covers. We like to play a lot of originals.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I actually think that was Amarillo Sky, not Amarillo by Morning, the song.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just sitting here and it dawned on me. I was like, I think I said that wrong.
Okay.
Which George Strait actually doesn't write a lot of his stuff, though.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
No, it
Yeah.
could very
He produces
well be.
it all, though.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not sure which one now. Now I'm like second guessing myself. I'm so sorry. That was going to bother me.
Time to hit the Google.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. We're going to Google that later.
Yeah. What would we have done without Google? I feel like I would have been lost.
So your
100%.
yeah. So your EP, Love After Death, was released last summer.
Yep.
And I have seen the video and listened to the song Blaming Us a few times. I really love that song.
Thank you.
And it's obviously coming from some deep place, you know, and emotionally for you.
Really dark place.
Okay. And I've discovered, kind of going through your music, you guys do a few ballads.
Yep.
Yeah. And so you mentioned, though, you've got a new EP coming out. When does that drop?
So I'm actually headed back to California 20-something of January.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty quick, like next week sometime.
Okay.
And all we're doing on it is actually finishing the mixing process on it. So the songs are done themselves, and we haven't actually set a date for the first single to drop off of it, but we recorded 6 songs.
Uh-huh.
And so I imagine the full EP itself will come out probably about like how I did the last one sometime in the summer. And I think we're going to be recording 4 more in the process of it. So once we've got what we consider the full EP released by the summer, I think we're actually going to be releasing it as a full 10-song album is our goal. So we got 4 more songs we're going to go in and get done in the process. So, because we haven't got to do that yet in a while. And I know people don't really do that, but we also kind of wanted to put it out and get it on vinyl and all sorts of other stuff because we got a pretty cool fan base, and a lot of them actually end up just wanting it just for the nostalgic part of it. And a lot of people, I mean, I've gotten to where I've actually started listening to records again myself.
Yeah,
so
they're coming back. I have a lot of my parents' old records, and you know, my husband had an extensive record collection and lost a couple in a robbery. I'm calling it a robbery because that's how it felt. But yeah, we had a property get broken into. They were at. There was some pretty cool stuff in there. It's still sad, but there's a lot of people that and I can't speak enough to how it sounds so much better on vinyl.
Oh
yeah. And really, like that's my only niche in it. A lot of stuff is it. Even now, I still think it sounds better when it's on vinyl because it still has like a certain tonal quality to it. But it is sad that we don't record the same way anymore, because there was like just a real vibe to the way they recorded on tape and put it into vinyl. Like it was just so much of a better feel.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. So I know that you played here in Woodward.
Mhm.
I'm not even, when was that?
It would have been in November.
November. Okay.
November.
Yeah.
And I hear that you're coming back to play at the Pat. By the way, that is my name for the Patriot
Patriot Pub.
The Patriot Pub.
He calls
calling
it the Pat.
the Pat. So when you're on stage there, be sure to ask everyone how everyone at the Pat is doing tonight. I'm going to make that stick.
He wants to coin that. He's working on coining that phrase.
I'll try to help you out.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah, we played there, and weirdest thing in the world, like I got sick, I guess just literally that day. So we had a lot of issues in my voice, so we didn't make it through the show the exact way we wanted to. So we rescheduled this makeup show for it, and literally it was crazy. That was, what was it, November? Is that what you said?
Yeah, the 17th, November 17th.
Last week was what, I don't even know how many weeks away from that. It was literally like the first time I've had my full voice. I've been sick that long from it, just from some weird sinus allergy thing that just came in like in the middle of the night. It's the craziest thing, but it was really, really devastating for me. Yeah. It's like my only superpower I've had, and it got taken away.
Yeah. You're like, where did that kryptonite come from?
Yeah. But no, we're way, way excited to actually get to go in there and do the show again. The place is amazing, and we had a pretty good crowd show up. Even I'm expecting it to be even better, and the show itself is definitely going to be way better now that I can actually sing and even speak, because I didn't even have a voice to speak hardly that night. It was nuts.
Well, we'll be sure to plug it as we move along here. We'll fill that place up at the Pat.
Awesome.
Yeah,
at the Pat.
At the Pat.
coming up in March, so we're pretty excited to have you back too. So I love rock music. Well,
March.
I thought we originally had like March 15th, but I think we had to reschedule, and I was trying to find the date, and I don't have it. So shame on me.
I don't know which date I've got on my board, but it's either March 8th or 9th, I think is what I'm showing. But
okay.
I don't know which ones. We got two Oklahoma dates. One's one and one's the other. So
yeah,
it's one of those nights.
Nobody wants to play on March 15th. I mean, bad shit can happen on that.
Oh, quit being superstitious.
All right, Travis, we sure appreciate your time and coming on here, and it's been great talking to you. I got to tell you, you are a great singer. The quality
it means a lot.
Quality of your voice is just incredible.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been great being on. I really appreciate you guys having me on. It's been really fun.
Good.
Yeah, well, we're so glad that you agreed to talk with us, so we can, spread the word about the great music that's out there that's from Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for doing this. This is cool. I mean, it helps the bands quite a bit.
Oh, absolutely. And we're big on local, performances and local venues and trying to push that stuff out there. So I can't tell you how much we appreciate this.
Hey, same, both ways for sure. We appreciate it a lot.
All right. So we've been speaking with Travis Jones of, I just lost my
9 Left Dead.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's why he keeps me here.
Yeah. She backs me up.
What's up.
When the brain synapses stops.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Travis, and you guys take care and good luck.
Thank you guys again.
All right.
We'll see you in March.
All right. See you soon.
Bye. So again, that was 9 Left Dead lead singer Travis Jones. And boy, Robin, that was such a great interview.
It really was. And I would encourage anyone, if you have the opportunity to go see this band, you need to do it. Travis Jones has the most incredible voice for a rock singer that every once in a while, one of those come along. Another good example, I think, is probably Paul Rogers from Bad Company.
Yeah.
There are just some guys that have that voice that really lifts them above, the rest of the rabble.
Brett and I were just kind of talking about that this morning. We were listening to Coulter Wall, which is a country musician, but we were talking about
He's got a great voice.
Yeah, his voice. It's just this mesmerizing, magical voice that really kind of takes him to a different level than. And he's young, man. He's like 28, 29 now.
Is that right?
When he started, he was like 23. It was like it's like just an old soul was dropped in his body, with this voice that people take years to get, and he was just gifted with it. And Travis is definitely gifted with a wonderful voice for the music that they're producing. And when I was in radio, I keep referring back to that. I was able to go to Rocklahoma and interview some bands that, if you've been to Rocklahoma, then you understand there's like the main stage, there's the Bud Light stage, and then there's a third stage, and I can't remember exactly what it's called, but the third one kind of has some lower level bands that are, burning and churning and trying to kind of get there, and a lot of really cool musicians come through that little tent, and we like to definitely check them out. But not just that, I was able to interview some of those bands, and I can say through probably the 25 interviews I did in those 4 years of Rocklahoma, Travis was definitely one of the best ones I've been able to be a part of. He really had a way of articulating the way his writing and music and his influences, and just articulating that to you guys, the audience, and not just that, but to us as well. I feel like I understand a little bit more about what's going on in Nine Left Dead after conversating with him.
Yeah, and they're and by the way, Nine Left Dead will be coming back to Woodward in March, I believe. And it sounded like it was going to be early March, the 8th or 9th.
I think so. I think that it got switched to that. So thing about that is you can go to Facebook to kind of solidify the actual date as it comes. We'll be promoting that.
Right.
So looking forward to that. Yeah, for the Pat. Because they're coming back to the Pat, which is, again, the Patriot Pub, if you're maybe...
It's the Pat.
Didn't catch that earlier.
It's the Pat.
Is he's hypnotizing you to call it that? Dead set on it.
Yeah. Okay. So this was actually a great episode, and I'm really glad we did this. I was a little nervous about doing a remote interview, but it went remarkably well.
Yeah, our first one.
Woo-hoo.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll have more to come because. We're in the middle of nowhere at the compound. We'll get some of them to mosey out here, but some of them may have to be, a call in. So
yeah.
And that's all right. That works too.
Yeah. And by the way, if while we're on the subject of music, if there is anyone out there in podcast land who has any tie to Paul McCartney, he's welcome to come on this podcast. There are things, I have questions that I want to ask Paul McCartney.
And if you've been listening to the first 2 episodes, you already know Robin has questions for Paul McCartney. So we've got to get him on here. Yeah. That's our number one goal.
Yeah. I mean, John Lennon, okay, I missed the boat. But
yeah.
But Paul McCartney, we need to get Paul McCartney on here. Paul, if you're listening, I promise.
Robin's phone number is no.
Yeah. Oh no. But you can drop me an email. It's at the bottom of the podcast, or the page where the podcast launches from. I'm a huge fan, and I think that your first solo album, post Beatles, was. And Sammy agrees. Was the album McCartney was frankly was fucking genius. So please reach out to us, Paul, and we'll get you on here. We will promote whatever you want to promote because we're well known throughout the podcast uni.
Oh, poor Paul. He's He's probably like, I don't know about those two and the screaming goat Sammy. I may be falling into a trap. I don't know.
Okay, so I think we're going to wrap this thing up. As we always do here at Mr. Robin's Hood, we're going to encourage you to stay hungry, stay foolish, but most of all, stay weird.